Have you ever felt that as a Muslim woman, there are not enough Islamic programs out there dedicated to just you? Have you ever had questions run through your mind about your role as a Muslim woman, your rights and responsibilities, or just general matters? Just Us Women is a program dedicated to you, the Muslim woman. Islam Life Radio has tailored Just Us Women to meet the needs of our Muslim sisters in order for them to gain authentic knowledge. Our host and teacher for this program, Ummu Maahir Ismaa'eel, will deliver and expand your minds on various topics related to women's fiqh, motivational talks, and how to be among the best women to earn Allah Azza wa Jal's pleasure in this life and the next, inshaAllah. So be sure to join us every Thursday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time with Just Us Women, brought to you by IslamLifeRadio.com.
Have you ever thought about what it takes to know the ledge? People say, know the ledge. What does that exactly mean? Well, let me see if I can sum it up for you in a short poem. Now is the time to show greatness and uplift. With knowledge and wisdom, we share the ultimate gift. We recognize our Creator who provides and sustains us, who gives our life balance and constantly maintains us. Our broadcast to the people is molded by truth. For the men and the women, and especially the youth, we reach out to those from all walks of life, no matter where you come from and no matter the type. Our goal is quite simple, and that's education and unity. With a smile and the salams, we embrace our community. There is no secret to success, just a desire to learn, because the blessings of Allah is what we seek to earn. So lend us an ear and bring an open mind, and be cautious, not careless, and be aware of the times. All it takes is one slip if you're living on life's edge, and unfortunately some fall because they don't know the ledge.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Are you experiencing a difficult situation? Going through stress, anxiety, confusion, or even depression? Perhaps something's troubling you and you don't know who to ask and where. Maybe you've done a sin and you don't know how to deal with it to make everything better and redeem yourself. You might even be wanting to consider marriage and have someone in mind, but don't know how to take the matter forward in a halal way. Are you looking for advice and guidance, which is also Islamically sound and authentic? If so, then your prayers have been answered. Islam Life Radio is now offering a free, confidential, anonymous, impartial, and non-judgmental counseling service based on the Quran and authentic Sunnah. Email us now at counseling@islamliferadio.com.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Sallallahu ala nabiyyina Muhammad wa ala sahbihi wa sallam. Welcome back, sisters. This week we are moving now into the next section of the book, Fataawaa al-Mar'a. This is actually part 4 of the series, mashallah, tabarakallah, and we are so grateful to be able to proceed as we are. So we begin this week in conclusion of the section, questions regarding the physical purification, tahara, and then we will move into, inshallah, questions that are regarding menstruation. So today, mashallah tabarakallah, then we begin with the question that is posed to Sheikh Uthaymeen rahimahullah. The question is regarding food that is left in one's teeth and ablution. So the Sheikh was asked, a sister for the sake of Allah has asked, sometimes I find the remains of food in my teeth. Is it necessary for me to remove that leftover food before making ablution? And Sheikh Uthaymeen rahimahullah, he said, it seems to me that it is not obligatory to remove such food remaining before ablution. However, there is no doubt that it is better and cleaner to remove such food from your teeth. Furthermore, he said, this is better to keep illness away from your teeth and gums. A person should clean between his teeth after eating in order to remove any food remaining. one should also use a toothstick, and when he says this, he's referring to the miswak. He says, so one should also use a toothstick as food changes the smell of one's breath. He said the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam also said about the toothstick, إنه مطهرة للفم مرضاة للرب. It is purifying for the mouth and pleasing to the Rabb. And the term Rabb here is referring to the word Lord. So then he also said that this indicates that whenever a mouth is in need of purification, it is purified by using the miswak or the toothstick. And then he concluded by saying, and Allah knows best. Now we look at changing the baby's diaper. Does it nullify ablution? So Sheikh Jabreen was asked, if I were in a state of ablution and then I change my baby's diaper, does this nullify my ablution or not? So the Sheikh responded, if someone touches somebody else's private parts with lust, then that invalidates his ablution, his wudu. However, there is a difference of opinion when such is touched without lust. He said that the strongest opinion is that touching the private parts of a baby in order to clean the baby does not nullify ablution because such is not a cause of sexual desire. Furthermore, it is something that almost all people have to go through, and if it were to nullify ablution, it will cause great hardship. And if it did nullify ablution, this would have been well known among the companions and those who came afterwards. So now we turn to the question that was posed to Sheikh Uthaymeen regarding cooking oil and ablution. So it was asked, I heard one of the scholars say that cooking oil is considered something that prevents water from reaching the skin during ablution. Sometimes when I cook, drops of oil spill onto my hair and extremities. Do I then, when I am going to make ablution, first have to wash myself with soap to remove that oil so the water can reach the skin? Similarly, I sometimes put oil on my hair as a kind of remedy for me. What should I do then? So Sheikh Uthaymeen rahimahullah responded by saying, before responding to that question, I would like to make it clear that Allah has stated in His book, and He's bringing an evidence here, a verse from Surah Al-Ma'idah, and the verse is 6. And in the interpretation, O believers, when you intend to offer prayer, wash your faces and your arms up to the elbows, rub your heads, and wash your feet to the ankles. So the Sheikh went on to clarify. The order to wash those extremities and to wipe what is to be wiped requires the removal of anything that would prevent the water from reaching them. Again, it requires the removal of anything that would prevent the water from reaching them. This is because if there is some obstacle preventing water from reaching them, they would not be washed. Based on that, we say that if a person uses oil or cream on the extremities, meaning of course the arms and the feet, hands and so forth, that must be washed during wudu, and that oil stays and becomes solid, then it must be removed before the extremities are washed. If it stays in that matter, it has weight and mass to it, and it prevents the water from reaching the skin, and therefore the act of purification is not valid. However, he said, if the oil has no mass or weight to it and its effects remain on the parts that must be washed, then it does not cause a problem. But in that case, the person must make certain to pass his hands over all of the parts of the body that are to be washed. This is because oil usually keeps the water apart from it, and therefore perhaps the water may not reach all of the extremities that must be washed. So we say to the questioner that if the oil that is on your extremity is dry and has mass to it, such that it keeps the water from reaching the skin, then you must remove it before purifying yourself. However, if it has no mass, then there is no harm in purifying yourself without washing with soap. But pass your hand over the entire part of your extremity when purifying yourself in order to make sure that the water does not miss it. And again, this is has been answered by Al-Alama Sheikh Ibn Uthaymeen. Now, just one comment here, and as we see that if it has mass, if it is a substance that is going to prevent water from reaching any part of the extremity, meaning the hands, the arms, the feet, or any part that has to be washed, anything. If anything is going to prevent that, then we have to be careful of that, whatever that item may be, whatever the substance may be. Let's take makeup. Sisters, let's look at the idea of makeup. If your makeup is preventing water from getting, if your lipstick is preventing water from getting to your lips, it must be removed. If your makeup, and we know how lipstick is, the water is repelled by lipstick. If your makeup, your eye makeup, is preventing water from getting to your eyes as you wipe over, then you need to remove that makeup. If your nail polish, regardless of whatever the manufacturers are bragging, if your nail polish, if you are wearing nail polish, then you should remove that nail polish so that you are certain that the water is in fact getting to your nails, since your nails are a part of your hand. Your nails, again, are a part of your hand. So we want to be careful about that. If anything is on you, any paint, if you happen to be painting or anything, you might even want to be careful of whiteout. Allahu alam, because whiteout can be rather thick and covering as well. So anything that meets this requirement would nullify the wudu, and we want to be careful of that, since if there is no tahara, there is no salah. So now we move to a question that was posed to Sheikh Uthaymeen regarding washing the face and hands with soap while making wudu. So it was asked, what is the ruling concerning washing one's face and hands with soap while making ablution? So the Sheikh responded by saying, the washing of the hands and face with soap while making ablution is not sanctioned. Indeed, it is from the actions that are considered overzealousness and being extreme. And it is confirmed that the Prophet ﷺ said, destroyed are the overzealous. Destroyed are the overzealous. He said that 3 times. So yes, if someone has some filth on his hands that cannot be removed except by using soap or other similar pure substance, then there is no harm in him using soap on that occasion. However, if he makes this his regular practice, then it is considered a case of overzealousness and extremism. In that case, it should not be used. And again, that was answered by our Sheikh Muhammad ibn Salih al-Uthaymeen, rahimahullah. Now we look at, does kissing nullify ablution? And this was posed to Sheikh Uthaymeen as well. So the question is, my husband always kisses me when he is leaving the house, even if he is leaving to the prayer in the masjid. Sometimes I feel that he is kissing me in a lustful manner. What is the ruling concerning his ablution in that case? So Sheikh Uthaymeen, rahimahullah, he said, Aisha radiallahu anha narrated that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam kissed one of his wives and then went to pray without making wudu. This hadith clarifies the question of touching or kissing a woman. Does that nullify ablution or not? The ulama have different opinions on this point. He said some scholars say that it nullifies ablution in all cases. If one touches a woman, it nullifies his ablution in all cases. Some say that if he touches a woman in a lustful way, it nullifies your wudu. Otherwise, it does not. Some others say that it does not invalidate wudu in any case. This last opinion is the strongest opinion. That is, if a man kisses, touches, or embraces his wife, and he does not ejaculate or release any fluid, then his ablution, his wudu, is not ruined, nor is hers. And this is because the principle is that his wudu continues to be valid until there is some evidence that it has been nullified. There is no evidence. There is no evidence either in the Quran or the Sunnah to show that touching a woman invalidates wudu. Based on that, if a person touches a woman, even without anything between their skins, and even if it in a lustful manner, or a kiss or a hug, none of that would nullify the wudu. And then this Shaykh concluded by saying, Allahu A'lam, Allah knows best. So next, the Shaykh Jibreen was asked, does my wife have to make ghusl? Does she have to perform the ghusl due to sexual defilement after insertion of the male organ during sexual intercourse, but without ejaculation inside the vagina? Does she have to make, or does she have to perform ghusl when she has inserted an IUD inside of her vagina? Or is it sufficient for her just to wash her body and extremities? So Shaykh Jibreen, may Allah have mercy upon him, he responded by saying, yes, she should perform ghusl to penetration of the male organ into the female, even if it is simply a little penetration. So again, he said that she should perform ghusl at any time that the husband has penetrated his wife. And he said, even if it's simply a little penetration. He said, and this is due to the hadith we find when anyone sits between the four parts of her body and then makes an effort, ghusl becomes obligatory, even if he did not ejaculate. Meaning the four parts, meaning that a man has penetrated his wife. And in another hadith, it is mentioned, if the circumcised parts enter, ghusl is obligatory. He says, wajib al-ghusl. Ghusl is obligatory. She also must make ghusl even if she had an IUD in her vagina because of the penetration, meaning the penetration of her husband, and usually some ejaculation. However, he said, she need only make ablution, perform the wudu, if there was simply touching without penetration. So again, if there's any penetration at all, even a little teeny bit, now the ghusl becomes a requirement. So now we move into the section regarding the Masail of Hayd and Nifas. So this section is regarding questions related to menstruation, Hayd and Nifas, which is postpartum bleeding. So we open with the question. My wife gave birth, and one of my friends prevented me from entering my house, arguing that it is not allowed for a person to eat what a woman has prepared while she is experiencing nifas, bleeding. She is considered physically and practically impure. I hope that you will help me in this issue. According to what I know, the women with postnatal bleeding is not allowed to pray, fast, or read the Quran. So the standing committee, or the Lejna, responded by saying, a woman does not become impure by hayd or menstruation, or nifas, which is postpartum bleeding. One may eat with her, and one may also come into physical contact with her, avoiding the vagina. However, it is disliked to come in contact with the area between the navel and the knees only. This is based on what Muslim recorded from Anas. Among the Jews, when a woman had her menses, they would not eat with her. The Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, do everything with them, meaning as you please, except sexual intercourse. He said everything illa nikah, everything except for sexual intercourse. Al-Bukhari and Muslim also record from Aisha radiallahu anha, who said that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam would tell her to put on a waistcloth, and then he would have physical contact with her while she was menstruating. There is no effect from the prohibition of prayer fasting and reciting the Quran during her menses and postpartum bleeding upon eating with her or eating the food that she has prepared. And again, this was answered by the Lejna. So we also find the use of pills that prevent menstruation. So the Lejna was also asked, there are pills that will prevent the menses or delay their occurrence. Is it allowed to use such pills during the time of pilgrimage only out of fear of one's menses coming? So the ulama answered, it is allowed for a woman to use pills that will prevent her menses during the time of pilgrimage out of fear that her menses may come. But this should be after she has consulted with a specialist who makes certain that her health will be fine. Similarly, she may do the same during Ramadan if she desires to fast with the people. So a caution here, dear sisters, that we know that such pills are utilizing hormones to prevent the normal bleeding from occurring. So you want to be careful with tampering with your menstrual cycle. It's far better to do things according to the Sunnah. And the women of the believers, may Allah be pleased with them all, then they didn't have such pills or utilize such things. They were pleased with the qadr of Allah. The mens is not a hindrance to us in our worship. It has its place. So let's be careful of utilizing such artificial substances when it's not needed. It's not necessary. Please stick to that which is more beneficial for the health. And be patient with the qadr of Allah. So Sheikh bin Baz, rahimahullah, was asked about discontinuation of bleeding during the menses. So he was asked, sometimes it happens to me during my menses that I have blood for 4 days, and then the blood stops for 3 days. And then on the 7th day, the blood returns, but not as intense as previously. Then it turns to a brown color until the 12th day. I hope you will guide me to what is correct in this matter. So again, Sheikh bin Baz, rahimahullah, he stated, the days that you mentioned, the 4 and the 6 day periods, are days of menstruation. So he said, this is hayd, this is your period. He said, then you should not pray or fast during those days. It is not allowed for your husband to have sexual intercourse with you during those days. You should make ghusl after the 4 days and then pray, and your husband may have intercourse with you during that period between the 4 and the 6 days. Also, there is no prohibition upon your fasting. If that occurs during Ramadan, it is obligatory upon you to fast. And when you become pure after those 6 days, then you must perform ghusl, pray, and fast like any other time of tahara. This is because the monthly menses can increase or decrease. Its days are sometimes together and sometimes separated. May Allah guide us all to what pleases Him. May He provide us, you, and all the Muslims with understanding and steadfastness in the deen. So next we turn to blood after we have performed ghusl. So then the question was posed to Sheikh bin Baz. I noticed that sometimes after performing ghusl, due to my monthly menses, after having had my period for a normal amount of time, 5 days, I have a very small amount of drops coming out. This occurs right after I perform ghusl. And after that, nothing else comes out. I do not know what to do. Should I follow my normal 5-day period and simply ignore what occurs after that and continue to pray and fast? Or should I consider that day also a part of my period and not pray or fast during it? Note that such does not always occur to me, but only occurs every 2 or 3 or so monthly cycles. I hope you will benefit me on this matter. So Sheikh bin Baz rahimahullah responded by saying, if what comes out after your washing is either yellow or brown, it is not to be taken into consideration, meaning as hayd blood. And it takes the same ruling as urine. And then he went on to say, however, if it is clearly hayd or a dam or blood, it will then be considered part of the menses, and you must repeat the ghusl due to what is confirmed from Atiyah, one of the companions of the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and may Allah be pleased of her, who said, we would not consider yellowish or brownish discharge as anything after we have been purified, meaning from the hayd blood, menstrual blood. So Sheikh bin Baz was also asked concerning a woman who ends her menses before sunset. So then he was asked, when a menstruating woman becomes pure before sunrise, is it obligatory upon her to perform the Maghrib and Isha prayer? Similarly, if she becomes pure before sunset, is it obligatory upon her to perform Dhuhr and Asr prayers? So the Sheikh responded by saying, if a menstruating or postpartum bleeding woman becomes pure before sunset, it is obligatory upon her to perform both the Dhuhr and the Asr prayers according to the strongest opinion among the scholars. Similar is the case if she becomes pure before dawn. In that case, then she must offer the Maghrib and Isha prayers. This has been narrated from Abdurrahman ibn Auf and Abdullah ibn Abbas. This is the opinion of the majority of the ulama. Similarly, if a menstruating or postpartum bleeding woman becomes pure before sunrise, it is obligatory upon her to offer Salatul Fajr. It is obligatory upon her to offer Fajr prayer. And then the Sheikh concluded this answer by saying, and from Allah is all guidance. We now turn to the menstruating woman keeping herself clean from urine. So the Sheikh was asked, and this is Sheikh bin Baz, so he was asked, when I'm menstruating, I do not clean myself from urine with water because I fear that the water may harm me. What is the ruling concerning that? And Sheikh bin Baz rahimahullah responded by saying, it suffices in place of water to clean yourself with clean tissue paper or in any other pure solid object that will remove the impure substance, such as a rock, a piece of wood, or similar substances. This wiping should be done 3 times or more until the impure substance is removed. This ruling is not just for you or anyone in a case like yours. However, it is for all Muslim men and women. And this is based on what has been confirmed from Aisha radiallahu anha, that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, when one of you goes to relieve himself, he should clean himself with 3 stones, and that will be sufficient for him. So this was recorded by Ahmed and Nasa'i, Abu Dawood, and as well as Ad-Darqutni, who said its chain is Sahih Hasan. It is also confirmed from Salman al-Farsi radiallahu anhu that it was said to him, your prophet teaches you everything, even how to go to the bathroom. And Salman radiallahu anhu said, certainly. He prohibited us from facing the Qibla while defecating or urinating, from cleaning our genitals with our right hand, from cleaning ourselves with less than 3 stones, and from cleaning ourselves with dung or bone. And this was recorded by Imam Muslim, Abu Dawood, and At-Tirmidhi. Again, this question was answered by Sheikh bin Baz. Now we look at getting the mints while in the masjid. So Sheikh bin Baz was asked, a woman had blood starting to flow while she was in the masjid of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. She stayed in the masjid for a little while until her husband had finished the prayer and she could leave with him. Did she commit a sin? So Sheikh bin Baz responded, If she was not able to depart from the masjid by herself, then there is no harm in what she did. However, if she was able to leave by herself, it is obligatory upon her to exit as quickly as possible. And this is because the menstruating woman or postpartum bleeding woman and sexually defiled person are not allowed to sit in the masajid. And this is based upon Allah's statement, which is found in Surah An-Nisa, the women, which is chapter 4, the verses 43, where it has been interpreted into English, nor while sexually defiled, except when traveling on a road. Except for traveling on a road. And it was also narrated from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam that he said, I do not permit the menstruating woman or the sexually defiled person to enter the masjid. Okay, so another question that is not in this book itself, this collection, but was posed to Sheikh bin Baz and is documented in his Fataawaa Islamiyah, was concerning menstruating women entering a masjid that consists of several floors, in which the main floor houses the men's musalla, with the musalla for the women above it, and a general area in the lower level or basement, in which there are several rooms including hammams and classrooms. We know of these kinds of multi-purpose buildings housing masajid in the West. Many of our masajid in America are constructed like this, particularly the Islamic centers. Many of them even house the Islamic school. So the Sheikh was asked if it is permissible for menstruating women, the ha'id, to enter the area which was not included or intended to be the musalla, in this case on the lower level, as the question was posed. So Sheikh bin Baz responded by saying, if the building you described was intended as a masjid, and the people on the higher and lower floors can hear the voice of the imam, then their prayer is valid. In this case, it is not permissible for the ha'idah, and this is the menstruating woman, to sit in the place that is for prayer in the lower level, because it is not a part of the masjid. The Prophet ﷺ said, I do not make the masjid permissible for the ha'id. This is the menstruating woman, and the junub, and this is the person who has ritual impurity from marital relations. As for a menstruating woman passing through the masjid for some purpose, as long as she takes precaution to prevent blood from leaking, then there is nothing wrong with this, because Allah Ta'ala has stated in An-Nisa, verse 43, do not approach as salah. And then from there, the point of a benefit here is from this verse, when you are in a state of janaba. So again, from this verse, the point of benefit and the point of evidence is, and when you are in a state of janaba, meaning when you are in a state of sexual impurity and have not yet taken a bath, except when traveling on the road without enough water or when passing through a masjid. So he went on to say, and it was reported that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam told Aisha radiallahu anha to fetch his prayer rug from the masjid, and she said that she was menstruating, and then he sallallahu alaihi wasallam told her that he said to her, your menstruation, your haid, is not in your hand. Again, he told her your menstruation is not in your hand. However, if it was not the intention of those who established this masjid that the lower level was to be a part of the masjid, but it was to be a storage room or to serve some other purpose, as mentioned in the question, then it does not come under the rulings governing masajid. It is permissible for the menstruating woman and those who are in a state of impurity to sit there. There is nothing wrong with praying there in the places that are pure and are not part of the hammams, as it is permissible to pray in all clean places where there is no shar'i reason not to pray. But anyone who prays there cannot be considered to be following the imam, who is praying on the upper level, if he cannot see him or any of the people who are praying behind him. And because this is not a part of the masjid according to the more correct scholarly opinion. So again, we find here clarity that the masajid that we're talking about, and throughout Saudi, we don't have all these different rooms and compartments other than the musalla. So then, if you go into a masjid where there is just a musalla, then you should not stay there, remain there. However, if you are passing through to rooms that are being used for other than praying, then this is permissible. So we now look at the menstruated woman reading the books of Quranic commentary or tafsir. So the question was posed to Sheikh bin Baz. I read some of the books of tafsir, and when we say tafsir, again we mean the commentary of the Quran, and one of the most well known to us in the West would be the tafsir of Ibn Kathir, or even in this case could possibly fall under the Noble Quran that we all know of by Muhsin Khan. Then this could possibly even fall into this category as well, because again we're talking about an interpretation, which is tafsir. So the Noble Quran that we all recognize by that has been interpreted by Dr. Muhammad Taqi ad-Din Hilali and Dr. Muhammad Muhsin Khan. This also falls under the category of tafsir. So then it was asked, I read some of the books of tafsir while I'm not in a state of purity or tahara, such as during my monthly period. Is there any harm in that? Am I being sinful in doing so? Please give me a ruling. May Allah reward you. So Sheikh bin Baz, rahimahullah, responded to the sister by saying, there is no harm in a menstruating or a postnatal bleeding woman reading books of tafsir, nor in her reciting the Quran without actually touching the mushaf. And the term mushaf refers to the copy of the Quran, a copy that we hold in our hands. So this is a point of benefit for us, that when we are holding a copy of the Quran in our hands, we don't refer to it as my Quran or your Quran. We refer to that as a copy of the Quran. And so that's Allah's Quran. So whatever we are holding in our hands physically and are able to touch, then this is a mushaf. So he said, actually touching the mushaf, according to the strongest opinion among the scholars. So he went on to say, as for the sexually defiled person, he may not recite the Quran in any manner until he performs ghusl. However, he may read the books of tafsir, hadith, and so forth without reciting what they contain of the verses of the Quran. This is based on the hadith that states that nothing would keep the Prophet ﷺ from reciting the Quran except being in a state of sexual defilement. In another wording of the hadith, the Prophet ﷺ states, as recorded by Ahmed, with a good chain, meaning a good chain of narrators, when he said, as for the sexually defiled, he may not, meaning recite, not even one verse. He may not recite even one verse. He said, wala ayah. And again, this was answered by Sheikh bin Baz. Now we look at the permissibility of a menstruating woman reciting the Quran and the books of supplication. So then, again, Sheikh bin Baz was asked, is it allowed for a menstruating woman to read a book of supplications on the day of Arafah, given the fact that the book contains Quranic verses? So Sheikh bin Baz, rahimahullah, responded by saying, there is no harm in a menstruating or postpartum bleeding woman reading the books of supplications that are written for the rites of the pilgrimage or the Hajj. In fact, there is nothing wrong with her reciting the Quran according to the correct opinion. There is no authentic clear text prohibiting a menstruating or postpartum bleeding woman from reciting the Quran. The thing that is narrated is concerned with the sexually defiled person only. As such, should not recite the Quran while he is sexually defiled, and again from marital relations. This is based on the hadith of Ali. As for the menstruating or postpartum bleeding woman, there is the hadith of Ibn Umar, which states, as it is translated into the English, neither the menstruating woman nor the sexually defiled person is to recite anything from the Quran. So this refers to the ha'id, the menstruating woman, and the junub. And this is the person who is been ritually impure for marital relations. The Sheikh went on to say, however, this is weak. This is because it is from the narrations of Ismaa'eel ibn Iyash on the authority of people from the Hijaz, and is weak when he narrates from them. However, she may recite from her memory without touching the Quran. And as for the sexually defiled person, he or she may not even recite the Quran from memory or touch the Mus'haf until he or she performs ghusl. The difference between the two is that the amount of time one is sexually defiled is very short, as he may perform ghusl as soon as he has done the act with his spouse. The amount of time is not long, and he is in control of its length, as he may perform ghusl whenever he wishes. Even if he cannot find water, he can perform tayammum and pray or recite the Quran. However, the ha'id, the menstruating or the postpartum bleeding woman, does not have control over their limbs. Such control is in the hand of Allah. Menstruation and postpartum bleeding could take days. Therefore, it is allowed for them to recite the Quran so that they do not forget what they have memorized, so that they will not lose the merits of reciting it. It is also so that they may learn the laws of the Sharia from the Book of Allah. Therefore, it is even more so permissible for her to read the books of supplications that have verses and hadith intermixed with them. This is the correct view, and is correct and the correct opinion of the ulama. May Allah have mercy upon them on that point. So Sheikh bin Baz, rahimahullah, was then asked about the prayer of the mustahada. So the question that was posed, a woman who has reached the age of 52 years has strong bleeding for 3 days and then light bleeding for the rest of the month. Should that, meaning this heavy bleeding, be considered menses, even that blood only comes to her on a regular basis, such as once every 2 or 3 months? Should she perform the obligatory prayers when the blood is flowing? Similarly, does she pray the voluntary prayers, such as the Sunnah prayers and Salatul Witr? So the Sheikh responded by saying, a woman like her should consider that she has blood due to illness. This conclusion is based on her age, and because it occurs irregularly. It is known from experience and from what is related from Aisha. When a woman reaches 50 years of age, her menses and chance of pregnancy come to an end, or the blood comes in a strange, irregular fashion. This irregular fashion is proof that it is not blood of the menses, and therefore she should pray and fast and consider the continuous flowing of blood as istihada. That does not prevent her from praying, fasting, or prevent her husband from having marital relations with her, according to the strongest opinion among the ulama. However, she must perform ablution for every prayer and protect herself from the blood with a pad or something of that nature. The Prophet ﷺ said to a woman with istihada, he said to her, make ablution or perform ablution for every prayer. So he said to her, tawaddi'i li kulli salah, perform the ablution for every prayer. This was recorded by Imam Bukhari in his Sahih. So just to clarify one more time what istihada is, sisters. Istihada is the breakthrough bleeding other than men's bleeding or post-natal bleeding. This is the breakthrough bleeding, irregular bleeding that sometimes we experience, and sometimes it can get a little long or very irregular. So I really do want to caution that we do see a doctor in that regard. We want to see if we're having that kind of an issue, then we really should see a doctor in that regard. And also just to remind our sisters that black seed regulates the hormones. It regulates the hormones. So if you are having such issues, then do get yourself some black seed. And I do caution you, black seed and honey mixed, because this is the strongest of the black seed. It's stronger than the oil. It's been verified by the scientists that the whole seed itself mixed with the honey is actually even stronger. Look at the benefits of the honey as well. So even if you're taking the oil, then take the honey along with the oil as well, because you will have amazing benefit with the two of them working together. So just to remind our sisters, take good care of your health. If you are having some bleeding issues, then you should see a doctor. If they want to put you on hormones, I strongly suggest that you try the black seed first. So now Sheikh bin Baz is being asked about a woman with postpartum bleeding that stops before the 40th day. Should she perform ghusl, pray, and fast? So the Sheikh was asked, if a woman becomes pure from postnatal bleeding before her 40th day, should she fast and pray or not? If her menses come after that, does she break her fast? If she becomes pure again, does she then fast and pray? So the Sheikh responded, if the woman with postnatal bleeding becomes pure before the 40th day, then it is obligatory upon her to perform ghusl, pray, and fast the month of Ramadan, and she becomes legal for her husband, meaning for marital relations. If the blood returns to her before the 40th day, she must stop praying and fasting, and her husband can no longer have intercourse with her, according to the strongest of the two opinions amongst the ulama. She becomes again like the one with postpartum bleeding until the bleeding stops or until she completes 40 days. If she then becomes pure before the 40th day or on the 40th day, then she must perform ghusl, pray, fast, and may have marital relations with her husband. If the blood continues after the 40th day, this is considered blood due to illness, and she does not abandon the prayers or fasting on account of it. Indeed, she must pray and fast, and she is permissible for her husband like the mustahada. She must clean herself and keep herself clean from the blood by using some cotton or something similar, meaning a pad. She should make ablution. She should perform wudu for the time of every prayer, because the Prophet ﷺ ordered the mustahada to do so. But if her monthly period should come, she abandons the prayer and fast and becomes illegal for her husband until she becomes clean from her mens. So Sheikh bin Baz was asked regarding miscarriage. Now he's being asked about miscarriage. So it was asked, some women have miscarriages, and sometimes the fetus comes out fully formed, while at another time it does not. And I would like you to make it clear the ruling for prayer in both of these situations. So they're asking for clarification regarding the miscarriage. So the Sheikh responded by saying, if a woman has a miscarriage and the fetus has clearly human features to it, such as a head, hand, leg, and so forth, then her bleeding is postnatal bleeding. She follows the rulings of postnatal bleeding. She does not pray or fast, and her husband cannot have sexual intercourse with her until the bleeding stops or she completes 40 days. If the bleeding stops before the 40th day, then she performs ghusl, prays, fast during Ramadan, and her husband may have marital relations with her. There is no minimum length of time for postpartum bleeding. This bleeding can stop after 10 days, more or less, and then she must perform ghusl, and all of the laws of a ritually pure person apply to her. If she sees any blood after the 40th day, it is considered bleeding from an illness. She would then fast and pray with the bleeding, and it is permissible for her husband to have marital relations with her. She must perform ablution for the time of every prayer, like the mustahada. The Prophet ﷺ told Fatima bint Abu Hubaysh, radiallahu anha, he said to her, perform ablution, perform the wudu for the time of every prayer, kulli salah, every prayer. So the time of prayer, he is cautioning that wudu would be performed at that time. So again, when the time of prayer, you're sure that the waqt of salah is in, we're certain that the time for prayer is in, then we would perform wudu. So the Shaykh wanted to say that if the blood that flows from her after the 40-day period coincides with the time of her menses, then it takes time on the ruling of menses. It is forbidden for her to pray or fast until she becomes pure, and it is forbidden for her husband to have marital relations with her. However, if what comes out of the woman does not resemble a human being, such as when it is simply a smooth lump of flesh or a clot of blood, then she takes the ruling of the istihada and not that of postpartum bleeding. She should pray, fast during Ramadan, and may have marital relations with her husband. She should perform wudu for the time of every prayer while keeping herself clean from the blood with a pad or something like that, like the mustahada, until the bleeding stops. And she may also combine the Dhuhr and Asr prayers together and the Maghrib and the Isha prayers together. She may also perform ghusl for the combined prayers and a separate ghusl for the prayer, the Fajr prayer, based on the confirmed hadith of Hamna bint Jahash. And this is because she is to be treated like a mustahada according to the people of knowledge, Ahl al-Ilm. And this was again answered by Sheikh bin Baz. So with this, we have come to the end of our program for this evening. And we took a number of questions related to the hayd or menstruation, again from the book Fataawaa al-Mar'a. Anything that I may have said today outside of the Sheikh's statements, if it was incorrect, then I ask Allah to forgive me for that, and may He rectify my affairs. I also ask Allah to reward all of the ulama that have that the rulings are coming from in this book, and for all of our ulama that have preceded us. And I ask Allah Ta'ala to strengthen those who are still with us and to reward them immensely for continuing to guide us, because it certainly is a very tough task to clarify this deen for us. It is a very big responsibility. So we ask Allah to reward Ahlul Ilm for all that they guide us by. And with that stated, sisters, I will now conclude this program with Subhanaka Allahumma bihamdik ashhadu an la ilaha illa ant astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. Exalted are you, O Allah, and all praises for you. I bear witness that there is no God except you. I ask your forgiveness and I repent to you. Ameen. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.